Spirit warriors, gather your focus. The spiritual realm is never asleep, and neither is justice. You see, when someone attempts to sabotage a chosen one, they're not just interfering with a person's life, they're trespassing on sacred ground. The story you're about to understand isn't just symbolic, it's real, and it reflects an unshakable truth in both scripture and universal law. Imagine a woman spiritually attuned, deeply connected to God, quietly moving in purpose. She didn't boast or beg for attention. Her light was silent but powerful. Then someone entered her life, cloaked in charm and deception. This person wasn't sent by God, but permitted for a season as a lesson. He smiled in her face, but plotted behind closed doors. He mimicked her spiritual gifts, drained her energy, questioned her reality, and mocked her emotions. His goal? To break her, dim her light, and siphon what was never his to possess. What he didn't know is that chosen ones are not just protected, they're divinely backed by a force far greater than ego or manipulation. When someone touches a chosen one with ill intent, they trigger a law older than any earthly system, the law of spiritual recompense. This isn't about revenge, it's about rebalancing. Galatians 6:7 makes it plain. Do not be deceived, God is not mocked, for whatever one sows, that will he also reap. The man sowed deceit, pain, and manipulation, and now he's reaping isolation, confusion, and loss. His relationships are dissolving, his career is crumbling, he can't find peace because peace doesn't dwell where injustice lives. But here's the divine twist. While he spirals downward, the woman he tried to break is rising. Her faith grew through the fire, her discernment sharpened, her spiritual gifts multiplied. Why? Because trials refine the chosen, not ruin them. This is not karma in the casual sense. It's divine correction, a holy recalibration that ensures justice flows like a river. You may have been in her shoes, questioning why it hurt so badly, why God allowed the betrayal, and why the storm came. But understand this, the storm wasn't meant to drown you. It was meant to reveal who never deserved access to you in the first place. Spiritual law doesn't operate on our timeline, but it never fails. And when you, as a spirit warrior, stay rooted in integrity and truth, the very weapons formed against you will backfire, often in ways more intense than you could have imagined. That's not your doing. That's divine order. The one who mocked your pain is now haunted by their own. The one who used your light to elevate themselves now walks in shadows. Not because you wished it, but because you were protected all along. So stay grounded, spirit warrior. Don't gloat. Don't seek vengeance. Just keep moving forward in your divine path. This message is your confirmation. Their cycle is closing and your next chapter is beginning. Stay awake, stay aligned, and most of all, stay chosen. Point 1, they gambled with grace and lost. When someone crosses a chosen one, they're not just betraying another person, they are walking headfirst into divine territory, unaware that every step they take has cosmic consequences. See, chosen ones are not ordinary souls navigating this world. They're appointed, anointed, and divinely protected. These aren't just poetic statements. They're spiritual facts echoed across ancient texts, energetic fields, and the unseen realms. A chosen one carries within them a vibration so high that simply being near them can shift the atmosphere of a room. They don't have to preach, shout, or even defend themselves. Their presence is a prayer, their spirit is a shield, and their life, a living altar. Many people, in their ignorance or arrogance, believe they can manipulate or exploit a chosen one the way they do others. They try to play mind games, twist the truth, take advantage of your empathy, or feed off your light, while secretly hoping you never recognize your power. But here's where it gets spiritual and real fast. What they don't understand is that their access to your life was never earned, it was granted, it was grace. And grace is not a guarantee. Grace is a covering, a divine insurance policy that only lasts as long as your spirit permits it. The science of energy backs this up. Just as one positively charged ion can influence a group of atoms, one spiritually aligned soul, like a chosen one, can elevate the vibration of everyone around them. You were their energetic safety net. You were shielding them with your prayers, calming their chaos with your peace, and absorbing their burdens just by listening, just by being there. They mistook your silence for weakness and your kindness for naivete. But what they were really witnessing was sacred restraint, because God don't play about his anointed ones. So when they crossed you, when they chose to betray, abandon, or disrespect you, They didn't just lose your friendship or love, they lost the divine favor that came with your presence. That's when the spiritual umbrella got snatched away. And what was once a drizzle of life's challenges has now become a torrential downpour of chaos, confusion, and breakdown. Mentally, they're spiraling. Emotionally, they're unstable. Financially, they're blocked. Spiritually, dry and directionless. This isn't karma. This is a consequence, divine order at work. Because when you gamble with grace, when you treat sacred souls like pawns in your game, you invite spiritual judgment. Think of it like ancient temples. Some grounds were so holy, so charged with spiritual energy, that trespassing them without reverence brought curses. You, earth angel, are that sacred ground. They didn't just cross a person, they desecrated holy territory, and now heaven is balancing the books. Don't be surprised if you hear that everything is falling apart for them. The relationships they prioritized over you, crumbling. The illusions they clung to, exposed. The peace they once had, vanished. Because your presence carried a divine frequency, and now that it's gone, they're facing the void they never thought they'd see. But don't gloat, don't seek revenge. That's not your role. The chosen one's path is not vengeance, it's elevation. Let the divine handle the discipline. You keep walking in your purpose, knowing that your presence is powerful, your prayers are portals, and your light is not to be played with. They lost you, but more importantly, they lost the grace that came with you. And that, earth angel, is a storm no umbrella can cover. Point 2. They mocked the process, but now they're facing the price. These people laughed at your healing spirit warriors. They rolled their eyes when you spoke of energy, of prayer, of aligning with something higher. They mocked your crystals, your journaling, your meditations, and your quiet walks with God. Too intense, they said, too deep, too different. But now they sit in their own silence, not because they've found peace, but because they're drowning in confusion. Funny how life turns, isn't it? You see, your spiritual growth wasn't for public entertainment, it was a divine process, a sacred initiation. You were being refined in the fire while they stood outside, pointing fingers at your ashes. What they didn't realize was that your so-called breakdown was actually a breakthrough. That while they gossiped, you were growing. While they laughed, you were learning. While they shared your pain in whispers, God was writing your redemption in thunder. Psychologically, people fear what they don't understand. When someone evolves, it shakes the foundation of those who remain stagnant. Your healing exposed their wounds. Your peace made their chaos louder, and that's why they mocked it, because your light made their shadows impossible to ignore. Studies in group psychology show that people often react with hostility toward those who separate themselves from the norm. It's called reactive projection. When someone sees something in you they're unwilling to confront in themselves, they attack it. So your devotion to growth, that triggered the parts of them that were still asleep. But here's the truth, they weren't just mocking you, they were mocking God's process. They were laughing at what was holy. And there's a spiritual consequence for that. Every chosen one goes through a wilderness season, a period of isolation, confusion, even loss. It's the divine cocoon. What they mistook as failure was actually divine formation. You were being equipped with strength, discernment, and sacred wisdom. You were learning to stand without applause, to trust without proof, and to walk even when the road disappeared beneath your feet. Meanwhile, they were using your pain for entertainment, sharing your trauma like gossip, even trying to manifest success off your energy. Yes, energy transference is real. When someone watches you closely, obsesses over you, prays against you, they're forming spiritual contracts without knowing it. And when you're the chosen one, those contracts come with a cost. You are divinely protected. Mocking your path is mocking the creator behind it. And that price, oh, it's steep. Now the roles have reversed. The very people who laughed at your silence are now being silenced. The ones who called you weird are now yearning for peace. And the ones who mocked your wilderness are now in their own. Only theirs comes without a compass, without the light of grace, and without the covering of purpose. They're lost because they never learned what you did in the fire. Spirit warriors, don't look back, don't seek revenge. You were never meant to match their mockery with malice. You rise in grace. Because the best proof of divine favor isn't shouting, it's shining. Keep walking in your light. Let them sit in their silence. You did the hard work, you passed the tests, and now you're carrying a frequency they'll never understand because you earned it in the dark. So remember this, the price of mocking a divine process is spiritual isolation. And many are learning the hard way that what they laughed at was never weakness. It was sacred strength in disguise. Point 3. They tried to harvest what they didn't sow. Let's be real. Some folks really thought they could snack on the sweet fruit of your divine labor without ever touching the soil, much less watering it. They hovered around your blessings like flies to honey, watching your growth, mimicking your steps, and trying to clone what God uniquely crafted within you. They copied your fashion, your ideas, your voice, and your light. Some even tried to imitate your spiritual anointing, as if soul essence could be photoshopped or bought at a spiritual flea market. But here's the raw truth, Earth Angel. Heaven doesn't recognize counterfeits. God doesn't anoint replicas. He blesses the original design. In spiritual law and natural law alike, there's a principle of sowing and reaping. This isn't just metaphorical. This is scriptural, energetic, and biological. Galatians 6:7 says, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows." So when someone tries to reap influence, abundance, or recognition from seeds they never planted, the universe will eventually spit them out. Their platforms might have risen quickly, but they were built on borrowed bricks, and borrowed bricks eventually crumble. So your soil was sacred. It wasn't just any ground, it was ground soaked in your tears, brokenness, fasting, losses, humility, spiritual warfare, and unwavering obedience. You didn't just get here, you were called, and that calling cost you. You endured seasons of isolation, betrayal, and delay. While others were partying, you were being pruned. While they sought applause, you were hidden in preparation. You were trained in the dark, refined by fire, and whispered to by God Himself. And that, dear Earth Angel, is why your tree bears fruit that can't be forged. Imitation may flatter, but it doesn't last. What many forget is that when you fake something spiritual, especially a calling or gift, you step into dangerous territory. You're no longer just pretending, you're tampering with divine alignment. That's why you'll see people gaining momentum for a moment, but their light fades. The audience gets bored, the magic feels forced, because what wasn't birthed in authenticity can't be sustained by ego. It will always run out of spiritual fuel. Chosen ones don't chase trends, they create them. Not because they're trying to, but because they're tapped into source. Your connection is vertical. Your downloads are divine. That's why your words hit differently. That's why your presence unsettles the fake and inspires the sincere. And that's why those who try to imitate you are now watching their own kingdoms fall apart, brick by brick. Even in agriculture, the law of harvest teaches us that soil can reject certain crops if it's not treated right. That applies spiritually too. When someone tries to manifest blessings from soil they didn't earn, when they haven't suffered, haven't surrendered, haven't sacrificed, eventually the soil refuses to grow anything for them. And this is what you're seeing right now. Their influence withering, their gifts looking recycled, their followers wandering, because they tried to fake what you were born to carry. Don't be surprised when people who once mocked you now try to mimic you. Don't be shaken when your haters become your imitators. Just smile. Because the tree you planted in secret is now bearing fruit in public, and that fruit carries your name on it. They can try to steal the style, the language, and even the spiritual aesthetic, but they can't duplicate the anointing, because your harvest was signed, sealed, and watered by God Himself. And no copycat can harvest what heaven only made for you. Point 4. They tried to bury you but planted their own ending. Oh, spirit warrior, the audacity they had, right? They whispered your name in circles you weren't invited to, threw dirt on your legacy like it was a sport, and plotted your downfall like it was a team project. Some of them even lit candles, chanted incantations, and pretended they had spiritual authority over your destiny. But here's the twist. While they thought they were orchestrating your end, they were unknowingly writing the opening chapter of your next ascension. Because what they forgot, what they always forget, is that you are divinely protected, and the spiritual realm does not play when it comes to its chosen ones. The spiritual realm keeps receipts. That's not just poetic justice, that's cosmic law. In ancient traditions, especially in karmic teachings from Hinduism and Buddhism, there's a belief that every action carries a vibration and consequence. What they send out comes back. This isn't superstition, it's energy. Physics even supports the idea. Newton's third law states, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Spirituality just takes that to another level. So when they lied on your name, manipulated others, or hexed your peace, they didn't realize they were handing the universe a ledger with their name on it. And while they were busy trying to dim your light, the irony is, they only made it shine brighter. Spirit warriors are wired differently. You don't just bounce back, you evolve. Every hit they thought would break you only activated a higher frequency in you. That's why your glow-up felt supernatural. That's why you began to attract better people, deeper purpose, and divine clarity. You weren't just surviving, you were alchemizing, turning pain into power, turning betrayal into boundaries, turning gossip into greatness. Think of the phoenix, the mythical bird that combusts into flames only to rise from its ashes, more powerful than before. This is a story told across cultures, from Egyptian mythology to early Christian symbolism. The phoenix represents rebirth, and that's you, earth angel. They thought the fire was your funeral, but it was actually your forge. And now, while you rise like royalty reborn, they're stuck choking on the smoke of their own schemes, not because you cursed them back, but because you didn't. That's the plot twist. You let go, you healed, you focused. And in doing so, you let karma handle what your hands no longer needed to carry. That silence, that grace, that peace, it echoed louder in the spiritual realm than any revenge could. The truth is, spiritual warfare is real, but it's not about who casts the most spells or says the most prayers. It's about who stays aligned, who stays in truth, in love, in purpose, even when lied on, left out, or looked over. That's spiritual resilience, and you, spirit warrior, you embody it. So don't be surprised when people who betrayed you start unraveling without your presence, when their carefully curated masks start to slip, when the very people they turned against you begin to question the whole narrative. Because your rise isn't just personal, it's prophetic. It's a reminder that no force on earth, in hell, or in the whispers of jealous hearts can override the destiny of a chosen soul walking in divine alignment. Let them talk, let them squirm. You've got ancestors backing you, angels guiding you, and a purpose too big to fail. They thought they buried you, but darling, they didn't realize you were a seed, and now you're growing in places they'll never reach. Point 5, they ignored the warnings. God gave them signs, loud ones, subtle ones, warnings dressed in dreams, gut feelings that felt like earthquakes in the soul, advice whispered from wise friends, and red flags so bright they could light up the night sky. But they ignored them all. Pride whispered to their hearts, telling them they were untouchable. Ego, that age-old trickster, leaned in and smirked. You can play with this one. They're too nice, they won't fight back. But what they forgot is one of the most divine truths of all. Kindness is not weakness. In fact, it's one of the strongest forces on earth, because it means you've chosen peace when you had every reason to choose war. See, spirit warriors, there's a dangerous delusion many people fall into. When someone moves with love, compassion, patience, and grace, they're often mistaken as naive, passive, or easy to manipulate. But that couldn't be further from the truth. True kindness comes from spiritual maturity. It's forged in fire. It's what happens when someone has already walked through betrayal, heartbreak, and storms, and still chooses to walk with light. So when they targeted you, thinking you'd just take it, they were playing a game they never understood. The spiritual world is full of divine order and energetic law. What you sow, you reap. And when someone has been warned by heaven itself to stop, to change course, to make peace, to repent, but instead they double down on their wickedness, that's when the consequences stop knocking and start kicking down doors. This isn't superstition. It's energetic cause and effect. Even science tells us that every action has a reaction. Karma, in its purest form, is just universal balance correcting itself. God didn't just give them one chance, He gave them many. A sleepless night with a troubled heart, that was a sign. A message from someone out of the blue saying, "Are you sure you're doing the right thing?" That was a sign. That eerie feeling right before they said something cruel or crossed a line, that was their soul warning them to turn around. But instead of heeding the call, they leaned in deeper, mocked, lied, manipulated, and every time they got away with it, their ego grew louder. "You're fine," it said. "You're in control." But no one outruns divine timing, and now the boomerang is returning. The same energy they threw at you in secret is circling back, publicly, undeniably, and multiplied. Not because you wished harm on them, but because that's how spiritual law works. Your silence was your prayer. Your peace was your protection. You didn't retaliate, you evolved. And God took note of that. He saw the whole thing, and he keeps receipts better than anyone else. What they thought was your weakness was actually your shield. You gave them a chance to make things right. You showed grace when you could have shown wrath. But grace is not infinite when it's abused. Now the very presence they mocked has become a mirror reflecting everything they tried to bury. The guilt, the shame, the truth they ran from. It's not vengeance, it's divine correction, because even God says, vengeance is mine. You don't have to fight dirty when you're aligned with truth. Life will do the balancing for you. So walk on, spirit warriors, keep shining, don't gloat. Don't wait for apologies, just know you were never too nice. You were just chosen to show them what light looks like before the darkness came to collect. Point 6. They misread your silence for powerlessness, and they thought that meant they won. They mistook your silence for defeat and your withdrawal for weakness. They smirked, celebrated, and whispered about how the chosen one finally gave up. But oh, how wrong they were. You see, silence from a chosen one isn't surrender, it's sacred. It's the sound of heaven preparing a shift. When a chosen one goes quiet, something holy is happening in the unseen. While they were busy talking, mocking, and plotting, you were still. And in that stillness, angels moved on your behalf. Heaven isn't loud like the world, it's precise. When a chosen one goes silent, it's not because they're lost, it's because they've gone inward into communion with the divine. Your quiet was never about hiding, it was a signal. God was taking the wheel. And when God steps in, everything changes. Science even tells us there is power in intentional stillness. Studies on meditation and silence show that brain activity changes when we enter periods of quiet. Regions linked to empathy, reflection, and spiritual insight light up. It's in silence that divine downloads arrive. It's not passivity, it's spiritual strategy. And while you were silent, your energy was recalibrating. Your soul was being rewired for restoration. That's why they don't feel your presence the same anymore. It's been upgraded. Now they're confused. You haven't said a word, but doors are slamming in their faces. Opportunities that once came easily are vanishing. Connections are crumbling. Why? Because the favor they once had was only allowed to last while they were connected to you. That's the mystery of the chosen one. You are often the silent intercessor, the unseen anchor in other people's lives. When they misused you, disrespected you, or celebrated your exit, they unknowingly cut off their own flow. Spiritual laws govern the realm of chosen ones. Galatians 6:7 says, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. A man reaps what he sows." When people mistreat a chosen soul, they don't just offend a person, they offend purpose. And God watches closely when his vessels are tampered with. Your silence gave him permission to judge justly. Your withdrawal wasn't an end, it was the beginning of divine reversal. And now look at you, you're walking into divine restoration. The very things they tried to steal from you, God is returning sevenfold. The peace they tried to disrupt, it's multiplying. The dreams they laughed at, they're manifesting quietly, powerfully. And the best part, you don't need to announce your comeback. Chosen ones don't stage performances, they just live. And the evidence speaks. The tables are turning, and not because you fought back, but because you didn't. You didn't retaliate. You didn't throw dirt. You gave it to God. And the heavens took that seriously. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." You were still, you trusted, and now the knowing part is being fulfilled, not just in your spirit, but in your surroundings. God is showing up for you visibly. You are not just restored, you are repositioned, elevated, realigned. You're not returning to where you were. You're stepping into something higher, and they'll see it. Not because you want revenge, but because a favor leaves a trail. The same mouths that mocked you will have no choice but to watch your miracle unfold. So never underestimate the silence of a chosen one. It's not the end, it's the sacred space where the supernatural begins. Point 7. You're the mirror they can't escape. You know what's truly wild, spirit warrior? Your presence alone, without lifting a single finger, can shake someone's entire illusion to the core. You don't need to scream your truth, argue your worth, or clap back at the whispers. Simply by walking in your purpose, speaking with conviction, and refusing to shrink, you become a living reminder of everything they abandoned in themselves. Every time you post, speak, rise, or just be, it's like holding up a mirror to their unhealed wounds. And that reflection, it's not easy to face. Psychologically, this is known as projection. When people see something in you that reminds them of a part of themselves they've neglected, They often respond with defensiveness, resentment, or even hostility. You didn't wrong them. They're just triggered because you embody what they gave up on. Your discipline makes them squirm because they chose laziness. Your joy irritates them because they settled for bitterness. Your boldness stings because they built their lives around fear. You, spirit warrior, are their missed opportunity in human form. And it's not just about envy. It runs deeper than that. You are the walking, breathing version of who they could have become if they had listened to their calling instead of their critics, if they had healed instead of hid, if they had grown instead of gossiped. So when you enter a room with your head held high, when your name is mentioned with admiration, when your peace radiates louder than their drama, that's not just intimidating, it's painful for them, because it reminds them that they betrayed their higher self, not you. And that's why their endings are so loud right now. The sudden distance, the subtle shade, the passive-aggressive posts, the dramatic exits. It's not that they're just mourning your presence. They're mourning what your presence exposed. You didn't ruin their peace. Your growth only revealed how shallow their foundation truly was. As your light expanded, their shadows had nowhere to hide. And when truth steps in, falsehood crumbles, loudly, desperately, sometimes even viciously. This moment you're in, where you feel people falling away, acting different or speaking on your name, it's not rejection, it's a revelation. It's the natural consequence of you rising. You see, elevation demands separation. Not because you're better than them, but because you're no longer willing to dim yourself to make others comfortable in their stagnation. You are evolution in motion, and evolution will always trigger those still choosing to play small. Biologically, humans are wired for homeostasis. We crave the familiar. So when someone close to us changes, levels up, or grows spiritually, it threatens the psychological safety of the group. This is why ancient tribal societies would sometimes exile the different ones, those who saw too much, questioned too much, or burned too brightly. Spirit warriors have always been cast as the outliers. But make no mistake, it's not punishment, it's the preservation of your path. Let them mourn, let them gossip, let them sit among the ashes of who they to be, versions of themselves they painfully constructed to outshine you, only to realize they were never meant to compete with light. They tried to clip your wings because your very existence challenged their illusions. You didn't burn bridges. You simply stopped dimming your flame to comfort their shadows. And now that you've taken flight, they're left gasping for the control they once held, but let them. While they rehearse old narratives and sink into bitterness, you continue to rise, not out of spite, but out of divine design, because your elevation is not arrogance, it's alignment. Your glow wasn't gifted, it was through storms, isolation, and unshakable faith. You didn't just survive hardship, you transformed through it. See, this journey isn't about proving anyone wrong, it's about proving God. Your rise is not a trend, it's a spiritual shift. It's what happens when you trade people-pleasing for purpose, when you choose healing over hate. And every time you show up authentically, choosing growth over stagnation, you radiate a light so undeniable that even those who once cursed your name will whisper it with awe. That's the power of spiritual maturity. That's the essence of walking in your calling. Because truth doesn't need to shout, it shines. You didn't hurt them by being yourself, you hurt the illusions they created. And sometimes truth is so bright it blinds those still living in darkness. But listen closely. Spirit warriors, this is not your cue to celebrate their collapse. You don't need to throw confetti over karma. Let the spiritual laws do their work. There's a universal principle in Galatians 6:7 that says, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap." You're not here to gloat. You're here to grow. Their downfall isn't your trophy. It's your confirmation that you were too emotional, never too intense, never too different. You were. And that's why he tried so hard to distract you, because you carry spiritual weight that shifts atmospheres. Every trial you've endured was training. Every betrayal was permission to level up. And every time you kept walking when quitting felt easier, you aligned closer with your divine assignment. So keep your heart pure, keep your hands clean. Let no bitterness stain your soul. Let no gossip distract your focus. Because God is not just your protector, he's your. And vindication doesn't always come in thunderclaps and fire. Sometimes it comes in peace, in joy, in the quiet assurance that you're walking the right path, no matter who walks away. Stay awake, stay wise, stay, because this isn't the end of your story, it's just the beginning of your awakening. The glow you carry, it's sacred. The wings they tried to clip, they're stronger now, so shine on. Not for revenge, but for revelation. Let them adjust or let them fade. Either way, we're made to fly.